Hello, everyone.
Hi guys, hope everyone's doing well. So in our last video, Wilma and I talked about that our channel was going to morph a little bit and try to give you guys some more in-depth information about the Philippines. So a lot of you already live in the Philippines, so you guys probably will already know what we're talking about here in a minute. So really this video is about people who are thinking about moving to the Philippines, and we're just trying to arm you with information. We talk a lot about building and things like that, but now we're getting into a little more details and giving you guys some truths. So talk about Iron Dome. We could say force field, we could say bubble. I think it's really important, and Wilma and I are lucky. We have a great relationship, been married for many, many years.
Yeah.
Our bubble, if you will, that we created over our property and over our marriage is really cannot be penetrated at all. So I like using the word Iron Dome because that's kind of a new term as it relates to Israel and the war over there, and the fact that they have a defense mechanism to protect them from incoming bombs. So you're going to experience, and of course this is everywhere, but we're talking specifically the Philippines, so we're going to stay focused on the Philippines. With a bunch of foreigners moving in, cultures are different. The culture here in the Philippines is much different from the culture that I was brought and raised in the U.S. And of course, there's some clashes, and you have to be prepared for that. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of truth. I don't think Wilma is a Filipina. I don't think she is. I said many times to our friends, Wilma's not Filipina. She is red-blooded American. 28 years in the U.S., right?
Yes.
So, she has learned to not let things bother her. Talk about thick skin. There's nobody has thicker skin than this lady.
Yeah, I can care less what people think of me. Really, guys, I really don't care.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more, I guess, call it thin-skinned. I consider myself thick-skinned, but you're thicker-skinned.
Yes.
Because, she's being nice. She usually says, I give two shits about what somebody says.
I try not to swear.
Yeah, so, that's part of it. And Filipinas here overall are pretty sensitive. And that's something that you're going to have to deal with your relationship with somebody new. Or you marry somebody and you're with them, several years, your personal relationship with that person. They can't handle a lot of controversy. They break down. And when it comes to Wilma, it's impossible.
Impossible. I don't care. I used to deal with so many tough people in the U.S. and
yeah. She ran a fleet for many years. She had, 50, 60 over-the-road drivers report to her. She was responsible for the board assigning, deliveries and dealing with CSA scores and breakdowns and delivery times and
yes,
KPIs and PowerPoint presentations. So
deal with almost 300 stores I had to service.
Yeah, so she
I'm used to it.
Many, many years. You did that for what, 20, 21 years?
22 years.
22 years?
Yes.
I'm starting to forget. So, I guess we're lucky just because, Wilma was in the U.S. so many years. Our relationship has grown there. So when we come here, we're already prepared because you're going to need to be prepared for, give an example, I'll use the word jealousy. There's a lot of jealousy here.
So many here.
A ton, right?
Yes.
There's a ton of jealousy, and it's not only between, Filipinas or Filipinos that may or may not be jealous. And I can understand it's a poor country and here we're coming in and, building the nice houses and things like that. We understand, but that's not really what we're talking about. I like to talk about the foreigner jealousy. It's pretty bad.
It's amazing to me.
And it's not just jealousy. Sometimes it's just gossip, and you're not going to stop it. So you need to have that Iron Dome, that bubble. You need to live in that bubble. Now, I guess if you rent, it's hard to have a bubble over a rental space. But for a 10%er who owns their own land and owns their own house, You know, we have a force field over our house. We have a bubble. We have an iron dome, and nothing can get in. When the flaming arrows come our way, it just bounces off. Is it easy to hear negative about you? Nah, not really. But at the end of the day, and Wilma has a great line, and I'm not going to use the line. It's her line. I may say it at some point because it's going to offend some people. She has a great line when somebody says something stupid. And I always get a chuckle about it. And that's one thing that we do. You know, we have that radar, call it jealousy dar or whatever you want to call it, gossip dar, sometimes gaydar. We always pick up on it pretty quick, and we always laugh about it. And I think that's important. So, you know, be true to your spouse and just realize that it's going to happen. Even if you're the best person in the world, you're going to have issues. There's going to be jealousy.
Yes.
You know, they're going to say things. I mean, just sometimes it's real subtle. Like we'll meet somebody at a restaurant, and I'll just give a couple examples. You know, we'll be at a restaurant, and they'll say, "How long you been here?" And I'm like, "Oh, we've been here 3 years." And like, "Well, where do you live?" I said, "Well, Wilma and I built a house up in Dowen." And like, "Oh, really?" You know, sometimes they'll say, "Can I see a picture of it?" Or, you know, we'll talk a little bit about it. And we'll say, "Yeah, we have a house and we built a pool." And, you know, we just kind of go through the steps, and maybe they see a picture of the house or not. And immediately they'll say like, "Oh, I wouldn't have a pool. That's a waste of money." Is that necessary? You don't want a pool? Don't build a pool. You know, then Wilma and I laugh afterwards. You know, we say, well, they said it's a waste of time to have a pool, probably because they can't afford it. You know, so we always have a good chuckle about that.
Yeah.
So people say some crazy stuff, and you just got to kind of let it go in one ear, out the other. Don't let it bother you. You know, Wilma and I have a lot of private conversations and chuckle and
Yeah.
laughs, and
All that matter to me is us.
yeah.
What we think of each other. We love each other, and you know, nobody else out there know better than us.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly
we've
right.
been together for many years. You're my best friend.
We're
You're
lucky.
my soulmate.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Yes, we're in love
Yeah.
after many years.
Yeah. We're very lucky, and I know so many of you are all of our friends. I want to try to get into some of the detail with friends. So, you know, I kind of look at it as kind of like a pyramid. You know, there's strangers that would be on the bottom of the pyramid. Then you meet somebody, and I call them an acquaintance. You know, but you don't really know. And then maybe you start seeing each other, going out to dinner, stuff like that. Maybe you get invited over their house. They come over to your house. Really, they're just an acquaintance at that point still, but a lot of people would call them friends. And then there's true friends. And then on the other side of the triangle, there's false friends, and there's enough of them around. And then, unfortunately, there's some enemies, and hopefully you don't have too many, but you know, I guess everybody has a few. So with that triangle, I think that we do a pretty good job of not letting people rise up that triangle too quickly. To get to a true friend takes a long time.
Takes a long time.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
you need to really know who to trust and who to.
Right. And even when you think you do, you might not, because you know, false friends, they're pretty good. They're pretty cunning. And it's not always about jealousy. You know, that's part of it, but it's just gossip. You know, I've always said that you know, there's a group of people and one person is not present, and then the group talks about that group and then or that person, and then you know, vice versa. We were just out to dinner not too long ago with a couple of friends, and the wife said, I'm surprised, Filipina said, you know, I don't like hanging out with that group. I like hanging out with you guys because every time we hang out with that group, all they do is gossip. And Wilma and I quickly looked at each other and said, wow, I can't believe that Filipina just said that. And you could see the husband of the Filipina was like, oh boy, she just opened a can of worms.
Yeah.
You know, we just listened to it, just moved on. We're not going to go back and say anything. That's not who we are, because we're not gossipers. But there's a lot of that. There's a few things I want to also say to prepare you guys. You know, when you're make acquaintances here, don't be too quick to call an acquaintance a friend. And I don't know why that has to be like that here, but it is. You know, people that we met 20 times, we still call them an acquaintance. You know, we haven't given them that badge of friendship yet, nor should they with us. I think here, and I think to count myself, I consider myself a little naive sometimes to move somebody up that ladder too quickly. And I think it's because I'm retired and I don't have to worry about the rat race, and my defense is kind of gone away here because I don't need it.
Yeah.
Or I thought that I didn't need it. Now in the business world back home, right, you're meeting people all the time and you're communicating, and it's usually about business. So the force field is up, making sure that you're saying everything correctly and not divulging too much information. And I think too many people, us included, let our guard down too much.
Yeah.
And that's very, very dangerous, because once you let your guard down and you turn over information, as innocent as often it is, that friend is a false friend or a gossiper, and it just is no good. And it's kind of like telephone. You know, you say one thing to somebody and it goes to 7 people. By the time it gets to the 7th person, the story has completely
Yes.
flipped. And then all of a sudden, you know, you invite somebody to go to dinner and they say no because they believed what the person said instead of going to the source.
Yeah.
So, you know, what Wilma and I always say is if there's any issues, we go right to the source.
Yes.
And have that conversation. Why would I say something to somebody else? I wish more people would do that. So again, on that scale of acquaintances and friends and true friends, now you could probably count true friends on one hand, and then hopefully you have a bunch of friends. And then, you know, for the most part, most of the people that we know, we consider them just acquaintances.
Yes.
So I think that's important to know. So for the next couple of minutes, let's talk a little bit about YouTube. I think YouTube itself just really attracts a different level of person. So many people on YouTube is disrespectful. They say hurtful things. So if you start a YouTube channel, like Wilma and I did, you know, you need to be ready for that. You know, when we sit down and look at the comments, for example, and I scroll through, and you guys know that I answer all comments. And I think we're about 98% positive and about 2% where people are just bashers. Now, there's nothing wrong with giving constructive criticism. I consider that part of the 98%. You know, respectful. Hey, I noticed this on your house build. You might want to check into it. You know, I'm a contractor, and I think that you may want to look into that. That's good advice, and it's something that all of us should be okay getting, and we should look into it, give it its due diligence, and then either A, decide not to listen to that comment, or B, actually take your advice. If you guys remember, longtime viewers, I think, and I might be wrong here, but I think when we did our original video about cost, I mentioned that we took about 8 suggestions from you and incorporated it into our house, because we were thinking one way. You guys commented and said, no, I think you should do this. And then we thought about it and talked to the contractor, and we made, I think, 8 changes to our house.
Based on the comments, some of the comments.
So, you know, that's wise. But when it comes to YouTube, for whatever reason, you know, maybe the people are unhappy in their own lives, whatever the case may be. It's been talked about to nauseum. But you just have to have an iron dome over yourself with that as well. And just realize that, you know, people are just not happy in life, and they feel good about themselves when they put down other people. That's just part of life. And it seems like YouTube attracts those type of people. And then others that are on YouTube, you know, just like clicks. They like the money, and they're going to do whatever it takes, be controversial, or be open-ended, be tricky, just to make some money. Now you guys could, comment, well, you're doing the same thing. Yeah, but we don't, sit there and talk about controversial topics to try to get clicks. We're trying to do topics like this to arm you guys with some information, because if you're going to move here, for example, more than likely these types of things are going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Right? Either your neighbor or people that you meet, you get into a group of friends or whatever the case may be, and all of a sudden you're going to say, why are they talking about us? And it's just, the way it is here, and you just have to pick and choose as much as possible. Again, I think there's a lot to be said about not allowing people to go up that scale of acquaintance, friend, true friends too quickly. Be a little more cautious. Don't be as naive as you may have been in your home country, because here, what do you call it? The hounds are out, right?
Yes. Just don't be telling your business, all of your business, to people that you just barely know.
Yeah. So many people on the channel, or when we meet, you talk to them for 10 minutes and what they did in life and how much money they have and how much Social Security they're getting and how much their retirement is. Don't share that with anyone. There is nobody on this or in this country that has any clue with what our financial situation is.
No, nobody's business.
Not one clue. And 99% of my family have no clue. Just real close family members that are aware of certain things, because if something happens here, they got to step in. But geez, just so many people share so much information, and that just causes trouble for you. So just keep your mouth shut. The best thing to do is talk about how poor you are. That's the best way to handle it.
Yeah,
right?
And then nobody will be begging you for money.
Yeah. So again, to each their own, but just be cautious. And I think it's good advice. It's just good advice to be as cautious as humanly possible. Don't give out too much information. Hold the cards close to the chest, as they say, and I think you'll be better for it. All right, so the last point we want to make is do your best to be true to yourself. I'm going to give a couple examples, and I'm going to use you as the examples. So here we go. So when Wilma and I go out to parties, what typically happens here is when it comes time for dinner, for example, or if it's during the day, lunchtime, whatever. Typically what happens is everybody gets their food, and all the women go to one table and all the men go to another table. That's just how it works here. And I've been to so many parties, and 99.9% of the time, that's the way it is. Not Wilma and myself.
No, I wanted to sit at the table with you while having our meal.
Dinner together, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Wilma and I are often just at a table by ourselves, just Wilma and I, or she joins the guys' table. She'll sit right next to me, and there'll be 8 other guys at a table, and we just sit and have dinner. And it's because we're being true to ourselves. I don't want to have dinner without her, so we just sit and have dinner.
Yes.
Another example would be if you're at a party that's next to the ocean. Usually what happens is after dinner and everybody's sitting around talking, we go for a swim. That happens often. The women go to the house for what?
Karaoke.
Karaoke. And the guys usually get their bathing suits on and goes out to the ocean. Not Wilma and I. Wilma puts on her bathing suit and we go swimming together.
Yes.
She doesn't sit with the ladies and do karaoke. She's out there with me. And it's just the way it is. I mean, we're being true to ourselves.
I just want to be with you.
Yeah, it just makes sense. So, be true to yourself. Don't be fake. Don't sit there and, think that you have to do what everybody else is doing. If Wilma wants to go swimming with her husband, she goes swimming with her husband. If she wants to sit and do karaoke, that's fine too. It's whatever she wants. So that's just a couple examples. There's one other example. A friend of friend of ours is building a house. Actually, I got two examples. A friend of ours is building a house up in Bacolod. And we were at a party a long time ago. This is like a year ago. You probably won't remember this. But he came over and talked to us at the same time. See if you remember this. And he was telling a joke. He's kind of a joke teller. And he was telling the joke to a bunch of foreigners and Filipinas. So let's say it's 10 couples, so 20 people. And he was telling a joke to 20 people. And he said he noticed, because he came over to us, and said, there is only one Filipina that laughed at the joke, and it was Wilma. So you got the joke.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I don't quite remember
You don't quite
the
remember
joke,
that?
but
Yeah,
and I think I know who it is you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. And then lastly, there's another gentleman that when we were out swimming one time and we were talking about politics, and it was like, I don't know, 6, 7 foreigners and Wilma and I, and they were talking about China and about the economy of China. And Wilma starts chiming in. She's just barking, answers and talking about the one-child policy and about all the different issues with China, like she's well-read that she is. And I can remember we were coming out of the water, and one foreigner came to me and said, oh my God, you are so lucky to have a Filipina that understands world affairs. So I thought that was pretty neat. That was an acquaintance of ours who said that. So be true to yourself. Don't just fall in line. Don't be a follower. Be true to yourself and do what you want. If you want to hang out with your wife instead of being separated, do so. Just don't follow the crowd. So I think that's another little bit of information. So hopefully this video you guys find useful. Love to see the comments.
Yeah.
Right? The 98 to 2%. We'll see how they come in. And you guys should be looking for your bubble, your safe place. And when the flaming arrows start falling in, they'll bounce off and won't even touch you. Talk to you later.